It's easy to forgive any problems DC movies might have had recently when exciting new projects like the long-mooted Nightwing movie suddenly drop out of the night sky. Maybe Warner Bros. Can have their bat cake and eat it after all. As long as they don't break any more directors along the way, the future could look very cozy. We've still got a very talented director handling the Batman, we've still got Affleck, we've still got more spin-offs, and now we have the famously well-buttocked former boy wonder to add to the mix. But there's more to this job than being young, gifted, and stacked in the arse region. But thankfully, there's a lot of talent in Hollywood who make for an interesting casting lineup for Bludhaven's bravest knight. With this in mind, I'm Jules from Whatculture.com, and this is 10 actors who should play Nightwing. Andrew Garfield has unfinished business with the world of comic book movies. Despite 2 very passable performances, he was unceremoniously dumped out of his role when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 underwhelmed, and what better way to get his own back than by jumping to DC and playing a character with similar attributes to Spider-Man, albeit without the superpowers. Garfield's Dick Grayson could be a wisecracking, athletic snarker, moral stalwart, which plays very well to the young actor's strengths. Number 9. John Boyega. Who says that Dick Grayson has to look like a slightly more muscular Burt Ward? What matters most for the casting agents who book the newest addition to the DCEU is talent. Star Wars rising star John Boyega evidently has a lot of that. He might have a lot on his hands with 2 more Star Wars movies coming up and other performances aside from that, but if Warner Bros. Could get him to clear some space on his schedule, then they'd be getting one of Britain's hottest prospects. There's something about his wide-eyed sidekick optimism in Star Wars that can mesh very well with the big bad boy physical swagger he showed in his breakthrough film Attack the Block, which could then create a Nightwing who could balance Batman's cynicism and also match his combat style. Number 8. Kit Harington. Now, Kit Harington has actually been at the top of fan casting wish lists for Nightwing for some time now, buoyed by his performance as Jon Snow on Game of Thrones. And that role will have prepared him for a comic book movie call-up, given that Snow's arc from reluctant hero to godlike leader echoes that of Nightwing's own story. Maybe his accent would be an issue, but being British hasn't exactly stood in the way of Benedict Cumberbatch, Christian Bale, Henry Cavill, or Andrew Garfield playing Americanized comic book heroes. Number 7. Steven Yeun. Even before he became a notch on Negan's bat in The Walking Dead this season, there was a gathering storm of support for Steven Yeun to play Nightwing. And now Glenn Rhee is no more, the actor should be free to take on some meteor roles that take advantage of his well-established fanbase, much to The Walking Dead's disadvantage. Part of the impact of Glenn's death was just how beloved he'd become with the fans, and that's the kind of goodwill Warner Brothers should look to take advantage of. He's likable, he's talented, and he's young enough to convince people that he was once Ben Affleck's sidekick. Number 6. Shia LaBeouf. Okay, put down your pitchforks, there's no need to get upset. Do it! Under all of his air quotes art and the attempts to get himself arrested protesting Donald Trump, Shia LaBeouf is a very gifted actor. Yes, I'm talking about the same guy who starred in the early Transformers movie, but let's face it, he was fantastic in Fury, and his work on American Honey deserves far more attention than it received. He's a controversial figure for sure, but that shouldn't stand in the way of his ability to act or his sustainability to play a key lead in a massive budget blockbuster. What LaBeouf offers is intensity, and while he's yet to really show any true physical performances, there's nothing you can't do with a gifted personal trainer and martial arts specialist. I mean, just ask Chris Pratt. Number 5. Taron Egerton. Taron Egerton has already been linked heavily with playing a former Robin, as he was rumored to be playing Jason Todd in Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. He'd also make a great Dick Grayson too. He's a lot edgier than the old Robin for sure, but he's proved himself capable of hugely charismatic performances across the entire spectrum. He's also not afraid of a dust-up, having worked with some incredible fight choreography on Kingsman. And just look at the dynamic his character Eggsy shares with Colin Firth's Harry Hart. That affectionate ribbing would work extremely well with Batman. Number 4. Iko Uwais. There's a couple of things that any actor who gets the Nightwing role has to nail: attitude and physicality. Nightwing has to be cocksure enough to talk to Batman like no one else would dare without fear of retribution, which seemingly calls for an actor who naturally fits this bill. Now, the Raid's Iko Uwais probably doesn't fit that, but what he has to mark him out above nearly every other possible candidate is his stunning martial arts skills. There can be very few actors currently working who would suit a high-flying, acrobatic Nightwing like Uwais. It might be a little at odds with what we're likely going to get from comedic director Chris McKay, but in terms of fantasy picks, he's beyond intriguing. Number 3. Riz Ahmed. On the back of The Knights and Rogue One, Riz Ahmed can probably just pick his next project with the luxury only afforded to actors who've had years like he's just had. He's gone from having a handful of good to great performances to being one of the busiest and most hotly rated actors of the moment. He probably doesn't have the physique or the presence to play one of the cleaner-cut big heroes, but Nightwing would be a great fit. He's charismatic in a slightly unconventional unconventional way, and he'd absolutely be the most inspired Dark Horse option Warner Bros. Could go with, but that's provided they can even get anywhere near his agent at the minute. Number 2. Zac Efron. When you consider Zac Efron to be the ball-shooting, floppy-haired lead kid from High School Musical, his credibility pretty much evaporates on the spot, but since making that breakthrough, he's blossomed. He might make some poor choices on what he does occasionally, but he's both hilarious and irresistibly charming. And for the triple header, he's also now in the kind of shape only an actor pounding the weights with The Rock could get into. In other words, he'd suit the figure-hugging costume just as much as he would the character. And number 1, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. If there was any justice in the world of movies, Joseph Gordon-Levitt would have already played Nightwing. In some glorious alternate universe, he starred in a 4th Christopher Nolan Batman movie, first taking over the reins as Batman but realizing the weight of that symbolism and expectation was too great and striking out on his own when the return of the Joker brought Bruce Wayne back to Gotham. But unfortunately, life is very cruel and that never happened. The irony in Gordon-Levitt's performance as John Blake, of course, is that he was already playing Batman's moralizing sidekick. He was already on the track to becoming Nightwing, steadfast and willing to challenge Bruce and morally centered enough to justify his own hero status. And nothing has changed since then. He's got the right sort of physique for Dick, and he's both charismatic enough and deep enough to play such a swaggering but fundamentally wounded character. And you know what? Who the hell really cares about the continuity issues that would rise from this? I mean, we would obviously, because we'd make a list out of it, but whatever. And that's our list. Got any other suggestions as to who should step up to the Knight's Plate thing? Well, let me know about them in the comments section below. And why not head over to Whatculture.com for more daily news and articles. As always, I've been Jules. You can follow me here on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, and I'll speak to you soon.